Hey, welcome back to Spell Storm Miniatures, a show about miniature war games, including War Machine and Hordes by Privateer Press. Our goal here is to inspire you to play more games. My name is Jeremiah.
I'm Dan.
This is Chad.
And we have a very special guest with us. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody. This is Will Hungerford. I'm the lead developer at Privateer Press. I've been with the company for a decade now. A lot of people remember me from when I ran the press gang for about 5 years, but I transitioned from that into running the organized play for all our games, and then in the last few years into the development department, and just recently, in about the last year, into lead developer.
Right on. Well, you know, the War Machine and Hordes is like our flagship game. That's the game that brought the three of us together, and that's the game that we play the most. And so we are absolutely excited to have you on board.
Awesome.
One of the things that we definitely want to talk to you about is Warcaster, and both Chad and Dan have put together a few questions to kind of get us started. And so I just want to turn it over to one of you guys. Why don't you ask the first question, and let's get this going.
All right. I mean, the first thing, right, is kind of what's your elevator pitch on Warcaster for those who don't really know about it yet?
Sure, yeah. So Warcaster is a brand new tabletop war game we're putting out. It's in Kickstarter right now. And it's the first ever true sci-fi war game we've put out. We did Level 7 back in the day as a board game. But our four main games, Riot Quest, Monpok, War Machine, and now Warcaster. Riot Quest and Monsterpocalypse are miniature board games. And everyone knows War Machine, long-running tabletop war game, but it's been steampunk fantasy. So now we are moving into the sci-fi setting. The gameplay is very different than War Machine. This is not War Machine in space. In fact, the factions don't have anything in common. Don't expect to see Space Kador. There's nobody with fuzzy hats in space.
I'm sure we'll see lots of mods for that, though.
Oh, I'm sure we will. But the big thing is that the gameplay is very dynamic back and forth. We had 20 years of game development under the company's belt and have learned a lot from that. And you're seeing a very different approach to a war game, a very modern war game, in the sense that, and we can talk more about those details, but it's an alternating activation game. It's a game where your army doesn't start on the board. You are constantly deploying it throughout the entirety of the game, basically teleporting it onto the field through gates you have to place. Mm-hmm. It has a very almost real-time strategy PC feel to it, like when you would build your barracks and have your guys come out of the barracks and you could build your bases further and further away. You're doing that kind of thing. Very dynamic back-and-forth gameplay where you're always involved as a player. There's defense roles, which War Machine never had defense roles. Mm-hmm. So even when it's not your activation, you're still doing something on your turn.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
So you kind of touched upon the type of game it is, and like some of the models we're using, right? I mean, you described them as the units as a generic term. What type of units are there?
Well, there's three types, and so let me pull back just a second, because I kind of talked about what the gameplay is, but what the thematic feel of the game is. It's 5,000 years in the future of the Iron Kingdoms, and none of the nations, kingdoms, or anything we really know is still around. It's in a galaxy called the Cirrus Galaxy. And so there are narrative connections that people will recognize, but enough different. Like, again, you're not going to see Space Kane running around.
And there's not going to be any Space Striker either.
There's not going to be a new Space Striker, sorry.
McBain train, maybe?
No. No Space McBain, sorry.
Oh, no.
Oh, man.
So the idea that the general narrative is that a long time ago, something horrible was happening to humanity when humanity all lived on one planet. I wonder what that could be.
Yeah.
And a bunch of them escaped through a gateway into another galaxy, and they found this galaxy that had almost no sentient life in it, but the planets were all connected by these giant void gates, and these void gates would open at different times. Sometimes they would open daily, and if you went through one, you would walk through one gate and come out on another gate on another planet. Sometimes a gate might open once a year, maybe if the sun was in a certain position, maybe if this was happening, maybe you had to have a key to open it, all these different things. And then they discovered this galaxy was full of a resource called arcanescence that was more powerful than anything they had seen before. It grew in crystals, and when you kind of dissolved it, it broke down into this energy that was oil, gasoline, electricity, and magic all combined into one. Mm-hmm. So humanity begins plotting the trade routes between the gates and begins spreading across all these different worlds in the galaxy. They use arcanescence, and they come up with a new type of science, basically science magic, called Neo-Mechanika, which they begin using to create everything, their ships, their buildings, their soldiers' arms and armament. But they can't do void travel. They can't get a spaceship to go from planet A to planet B. They are incapable of doing so. They can have ships that can hang out in orbit and ships that can fly across continents, but they just can't fly traditional spaceship style. So they're still relying on the void gates, and they're relying on arcanescence to power everything. So when the setting takes place is when the arcanescence is starting to run out. So we get introduced to our factions and sort of what the galaxy looks like, and all of these factions are fighting against each other and going to war with one another. When you pick your faction, and we can go to the 3 factions here in a bit that we've revealed so far, you build your force out of units, and there are 3. Everything in the game is a unit, and there are 3 types of units. There are squads, which is usually 3 models, and this is basically traditional infantry troopers. Solos, which is one individual, very powerful, usually above and beyond a typical squad trooper. And then warjacks. There are warjacks in this setting. They are one of the most powerful weapons used when people go to war.
Okay, so my little sci-fi nerd in me, my heart is like pumping because I'm really excited about this. But I have a question about the story real quick, and it has nothing to do with the game. But you said that they started to map trade routes between gates. Does that mean that we know the other end? There's predictability. I just want to know that just for fluff reasons.
So to some degree, and that's actually part of the faction. So let me talk about the 3 factions we know. So the first faction we know is the Iron Star Alliance, and the Iron Star Alliance is this giant conglomeration of corporations, nations, empires, and kingdoms that are all working together under a single alliance and sort of its policies and laws for mutual support and resource sharing. These planets that they inhabit are all tightly knit together, and they also have the most reliable void gates. So someone in the Iron Star Alliance is like, okay, I need a shipment of pizza to go from planet A to planet B, and I know that this gate opens daily. The problem is that their laws and policies are very draconian, and to live in their protection, it's not tyrannical, but to live in their protection, you're going to follow what they tell you to do. If they say there's no dancing on Wednesday, there's no dancing on Wednesday, or the cops will come for you. But the other faction is the Marcher Worlds. The Marcher Worlds are those that have gone to the fringes of the galaxy, where the gates are a little bit less reliable, and where there's still planets that haven't been mapped out yet, where people don't know where they go to, and maybe the gates go to different places, but they're living their own life, and it's a bunch of various, again, kingdoms and nations that have just joined together in a looser alliance to say, okay, the Iron Star is going to come out here. They're going to come looking for arcanescence. Let's work together to not let this happen. So they're the fringe worlds that sort of exist, but they have less reliable trade routes.
Okay.
And then the third faction we showed is across all these planets. That's the Eternus Continuum, and they're a cult of basically body horror cyberpunk freaks they want to live forever, but they don't want to use old technology they've heard of that allows people to put their souls into robots. They want to keep their fleshy bits, so they're basically the cyborg faction that they do flesh crafting. They meld their body into mechanical parts and be like, okay, you're going to keep your face and your brain and your heart and your lungs, but they're like dark RoboCop, the faction.
Clearly started by Karchev the Terrible.
So it's interesting. There's little nods and stuff, and one of the Eternus Continuum solos is called the Marauder, and it's an individual that's in this big suit of armor, and it's called Karchez's armor.
Oh, I like that.
So there's little nods here and there.
That's gonna be fun trying to find all the nods.
Right.
And as more and more stuff gets released, you'll be able to find more and more of them.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So that's excellent. So now we have a little more idea on kind of what's going with the game. You guys are kickstarting this. Is there what's the reason behind Kickstarter? I know a lot of people have been kind of like, ugh, Kickstarter, and some people are like, excellent. So it's a ton. There's a very great explanation for somebody who's wondering why Kickstarter. I'd actually recommend go to our Kickstarter page, and if you look at the page, and if you look at one of the first updates that Matt Wilson posted, Matt wrote this wonderful almost essay that explained why we have decided to kickstart something, and it talks a lot about
risk of a new game. It talks a lot about ways to get the product to people. It also talks about the idea that a year from now, somebody getting into Warcaster is not going to get into it through Warcaster. They're still going to their local store.
Yeah.
And that we will be shipping this through regular distribution and supporting local stores. That the Kickstarters are just to kind of get the initial stuff, the waves of product out there. But I think that Matt's words will say it better than I did, so I'd recommend people go check out because it's just he wrote out, like I said, this like dissertation on why Kickstarter, because we knew that was going to be a big question, and it was something that we didn't want to wait and react to and be like, oh, I wonder if people will be okay with it. Like, we knew people were gonna wonder, and so that was all prepared and ready for as soon as it started.
I read that last week or whatever, and I thought I agree with you. He wrote it really well. The Kickstarter went live a week ago, like last Wednesday, right, on the 4th?
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says almost a week ago.
And they got funded like almost immediately.
27 minutes.
It funded while we were on the stream.
Yeah.
So
That's
we were doing the stream, and we knew the Kickstarter might go live because, stuff happens, right?
Right.
But we were told it's probably going to go live. So we had people off the side of the camera. Me and Oz are on there talking about Warcaster, and then we get the signal, Kickstarter's live. So we go, everybody, hey, Kickstarter's live, go check it out. So we keep doing our spiel and doing the stream, and then 27 minutes later, we had made 100K. And so the chat's just like, funded. Everyone's just screaming, funded, in all caps in the chat. And we're like, whoa,
That's
okay,
incredible.
cool. That's awesome.
Well, it turns out people are excited about it. Who knew?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I was super jazzed. Last year was my first lock and load, and I had my son with me, and at the time he was 12, and like I was just beside myself, and he was all excited, and because we play all the games. We got the Monpac, we got the Riot Quest, and he's got a Troll Bloods army, and now we're like, ooh, Warcaster.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and it's good to have sort of the 4 pillars established. That if you come into the Privateer Press community, if you're super casual, super competitive, board gamer, tabletop, or more wargaming, like whatever you're interested in, we've got something for you. We have a way for you to come join the community and play the game.
Exactly, and that's excellent. Like I said, this is just kind of adding on where you had War Machine Hordes feels like that larger scale, very many rules and interactions going on. Riot Quest is a lot of wacky fun, crazy stuff happening. And then Monpac has your giant monsters, a little bit easier to kind of run on scale.
Yeah, it's definitely they all have their own little flavors to it, which is a lot of fun too.
Yeah, and depending on what kind of player you are, like obviously if you're a competitive player, like, I want to play tournaments, and like that's your jam.
Yeah.
War Machine's going to be great for you.
Yeah.
And if you're like, I want to play a game with my 9-year-old where it doesn't, like we're just going to roll dice, have fun, and funny things will happen, and we'll be laughing. You want Riot Quest.
Yeah.
And then if you just like cool stuff, play Monpac. Like, who doesn't like giant monsters, body slamming monsters into other buildings?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love Monpac so much because you can play it super casual, or you can play that game so competitively if you want.
Yeah,
it really straddles between the two.
Yeah.
And I've seen both sides of that. There's a couple of people in our community down here in the Portland and Hillsborough area that certainly play both sides. I play a little bit more casually, but I've also seen the person that plays it like super, super competitively that carefully plans out every single step that they take. And I'm like, I don't want to put that much effort into this. I just want to throw monsters into buildings.
Right.
Come on.
Body slam.
And I feel like Warcaster is going to be in that same range that Monpac is.
Okay.
Where people are going to absolutely play this game super casually and just have fun and just go at their own pace. And then I'm sure there will be a competitive community that grows around it because the rules are written tightly enough to support such a thing.
See, and I was going to ask about that because I got the sense that there's some folks around our area who would want to play it a little bit more competitively. And I wanted to ask you if you felt that the rule set could lend itself towards that. One of the things that you guys do really well is you do write good rules, and so that's been like one of the just one of the consistent things that we can count on. But you think so? You think Warcaster could be for those that are interested? Yeah,
absolutely. I think any of the 4 pillars can be played competitively. I think if you try to play competitive Riot Quest, just know you're playing Smash Brothers with all the items turned on.
Pretty much.
Like a golden hammer is going to drop and you might just lose, and that's you just got to deal with it. But I definitely think that Warcaster will be able to play that way for sure. And it's got a lot of built-in restrictions already that you can't have more than 4 of any given unit. Like everything is FA4 effectively in the game, except for the heroes. The heroes are FA character, the named heroes. Yeah. And so I think because that we one thing we kind of paid attention to is, okay, if something is too good, will it be spammed? And in a game like this where when your units die, they go back to your reserve pool. They go back to your ship, and you can teleport them again into the battlefield later. Yeah. You could summon them, so you can never get tabled. The only thing that ever perma-die in a game is a hero, like a named hero. If they die, they can't come back. So immediately it was like, okay, well, if we can only play test so much, and we have external playtesters that can only do so much, but when this goes to the larger community, if they go, oh, this specific customized build out of a Jack is the best, I'm going to run 12 of that. Right. So being everything is FA4, little design decisions like that are not just for the overall health of the game design in a vacuum, but also keeping competitive play in mind to try and curtail some stuff that might get out of control.
Can I ask you a question on the other end of the spectrum?
Sure.
My son and I were really enjoying the Oblivion campaign. Is Warcaster, is there going to be like a campaign setting or a campaign way to play? Do you see that it would, you already said it could lend itself to a competitive environment. Could it lend towards a more storytelling environment for those of us that are interested in that?
Absolutely. In fact, just the base game already is lent its way. So unlike War Machine, where you win by caster kill, there is no caster kill, there is no tabling an opponent in Warcaster. Every game you have to pick a scenario, and every game you play is scenario-based.
Right on.
And these scenarios are built with narratives already in them, even if it's a simpler one, like go take and hold this objective or whatever. There's objectives that are permanent that you can go like defend. There's portable objectives that you can go grab something and bring it somewhere else. We will have asymmetrical scenarios where one person might be trying to bomb someone else's base and they got to hold them off for so many turns. Its DNA is built, I would say, even in a competitive tournament, the scenarios that people will be playing will still be narrative just based on what they are. But in terms of like much larger campaigns, absolutely. Right on. And it also is really built for people to do their own thing. Like if you were like, hey, let's make up a scenario where we do this and this and this, like go for it. It's not terribly difficult to do so.
Yeah, especially with the flexibility that you have with deploying constantly around the board. You can do a lot of. There's a lot of flexibility for kind of going outside the boundaries that Privateer will give with their scenarios and probably building something of your own that might be a little bit different. There's tons of opportunity there. And watching the stream today was interesting to see how much flexibility there was going on.
That's one of the things we wanted this game to do was so one thing we noticed with War Machine is in most War Machine games, just due to the nature of the game, while you're playing on a 4x4 table, there's a good foot on either side of the player's table that is probably not used most of the game, right? Yeah. Like where the kill box is. And so, in honesty, the vast majority of War Machine is played in probably about a 2-foot by 3-foot box. And we wanted this game to be more dynamic with the summoning of the gates, and we're like, we want to create things where you can play on the entire table, depending on the scenario you've got. Like, we've shown off the skirmish scenario, which has 3 points kind of in a triangle, and not a symmetrical triangle exactly, that you're trying to take. But we've got scenarios that are in the rules that people can go find now on Warcaster.com. That it's like a giant ring of geysers that go all around the board, and every turn, 2 of them are setting off with arc geysers, and the other ones are inactive. And the inactive ones are only worth like 1 VP if you control them, and the active ones are worth 3 if you control them. So you want to be constantly shifting around your forces around the board, trying to catch the geysers as they go off, and stuff like that. And I think if we do more asymmetrical ones, like bombing runs and stuff like that, you're going to see people be like, okay, your job is to defend this quadrant, and then your opponent has these 3 quadrants to come after you. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, that's excellent. I kind of wanted to bring it back, down to like you're talking about modding out war jacks, right? Now each jack you're saying can have their own hard points, correct, and kind of their own cortex. You want to expand a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was a very early design decision from Matt. Like that was like in the opening design bible of the game was that the warjacks would be customizable, and that every warjack based on its chassis, has a certain number of hard points. These could be like left arm, left shoulder mount, right shoulder mount, and then their cortex. And then depending on the jack, it has a set number of build points you can spend, and then the weapons that are available to it. So, a jack may have 5 build points and have a total of 7 arm options, 3 cortex options, and 5 shoulder options. Yeah. Every weapon has a build point cost, and so you can do a jack that you just go, I'm going to put all my points into a massive gun on its right hand and like maybe a little minor, like, a machine gun on its shoulder, and leave my other hard points empty, which you can do. Or you might try and fill out all your hard points, which is pretty easy to do. It just depends on where you want to put your firepower. The different chassis of jacks for different factions look different and might have different slots open. Like the Eternus Continuum, a lot of their jacks have this gigantic like crab claw on their left hand, and so their left arm hardpoint is set. You can't customize it. It is always part of that jack. It has this arm. But then but instead of having a left arm, right arm, it's got right arm hardpoint and I think like 2 shoulders. Yeah. So you still get a ton of customization.
That's great. And then you're gonna mold these so we can magnetize them, right?
So they actually did a Get Your Paint On stream where they it was a hobby hangout stream. Yeah. Where they went over magnetizing and how to do it. And magnetization is definitely in mind. It doesn't have like a pre-cut divot and doesn't come with an earth magnet, but like the people doing it, like it's not like Bethane. Everybody who's ever built Bethane and Belphegor, like it came ready to magnetize. Yeah. It's not like that, but I mean it's very easy to make the mod and do it.
Yeah, and if you haven't checked out that that hobby hangout from last week, I believe it was, it's a pretty good one. Yeah. And was it Brian that was on there?
It was Brian. Yeah,
Brian does a really good job of going over and very carefully going through all the different surfaces and things like that of where to drill, drop your magnet, and then go and everything else with it. So if you haven't checked that video out, it's available on Twitch, YouTube, and go take a look at it.
I think I'll put it in the show notes so that so as you're listening, you can just go and click it and you can read the article from earlier and then also watch that video.
No, side note, I mean, you could always add magnets as an add-on. Just saying.
Hey,
Kickstarter add-on.
So I got a question for you, Will. We've 3 factions have been introduced through the Kickstarter. Which one are you enjoying the most playing? I'm sure you're playing at the office and stuff. Which one of you are you personally enjoying?
I am most leaning towards Iron Star Alliance with all their Paladin squads and their Firebrand Jack, and they have a certain synergy to them that I really enjoy. I also enjoy that they have they're very straightforward, right? Their whole shtick is that they're the ones with the most resources, the most access to the highest tech. So where Marcher Worlds are more hit and run guerrilla tactics, and then Eternus Continuum is more like sneaky, like phasing through walls and dirty tricks. The Iron Star is just like brute force synergy and power. Yeah. And I typically don't play things like that in the war games I do play. And so getting to play something like that as sort of a fresh start has just been fun because it is sort of a departure from the normal army styles I enjoy playing.
Nice.
But there's no Gatorman and no gumbo in it. Right. I don't know how.
There's no
space gumbo yet.
There is, okay, so I know I can't talk about internal emails I send, but I'm going to say one anyway. There is a day where I sent an email to Wilson, and what I'd done is I went online and I found a cartoon picture of a gator in like a NASA spacesuit with like the glass bobble helmet.
That's awesome. Oh, that's amazing.
And I just sent it to him, and it just said, like, I think the caption was, "I'm just saying." Like, that's all. I was just like, "I'm just saying."
Could definitely be. Well, you never know. There's 1,000 worlds out there. I'm sure you guys haven't figured out, what inhabits all 1,000 worlds out there. There absolutely could be a Bayou planet out there.
Well,
full of like robotic or half robotic gators or something like that. It's totally possible.
In my heart, I believe that's true.
Yes.
In my canon, there is a space gator planet.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Called the Hunger Worlds.
Hunger World is a terrible theme park amusement theme park name. Like, welcome to Hunger World, kids. I don't want to go.
Oh God, we're gonna leave right now.
Yeah.
Back in the car.
Yeah, Marcher, back at the spaceship, kids. Get back at the spaceship.
Oh, there it is.
Marcher Worlds are definitely the ones that I'm looking at the most because I've played Circle through on and off throughout my entire War Machine career for about 10 or 11 years or so, and I really like the aesthetic that they have, and the Duskwolf looks really cool. So I'm looking forward to picking them up. I'm also looking forward to see like what other jacks are going to be out there because I noticed one of the stretch goals that we're getting very close to are alternate sculpts for the jacks. So, and we've also seen the heavies. We've seen one of each for all the different factions. Can we expect other light jack chassis to be coming down the pipe?
Down the pipe, definitely. I can't say they'll be part. I can't say if they'll be part of this Kickstarter or not.
I kind of figured that it's probably not going to be this close, but maybe closer to like the release of some of the other factions and things like that.
Yeah, but I think people should definitely expect to see more jacks and more stuff for these factions. Okay. And like we've only shown the Duskwolf and the Strike Raptor for Marcher Worlds, which the Strike Raptor is like the chunkiest jack we've ever made.
I was looking over that guy's rules and seeing that there were 2 hard points on the shoulders and 2 in the arms, and then it begs the question: can I put 2 of the same gun on each of the shoulder? Like, can I put 2 rail guns on this dude's shoulders? And the answer was yes. I was like, that seems super cool.
My favorite build for the Firebrand, which is the Iron Star Alliance light jack, is double shields.
Yeah.
I do a shield in each arm because they're only 1 point. That gives me 3 points left over to have a shoulder weapon, just be whatever I need to maul people with. But I'll just go stick them on a point, right, with double shields and be like, good luck.
Yeah.
See, I like that. I'm kind of the Iron Star. That's the side I'm falling towards so far aesthetically and look.
Yeah, I'm afraid. Here's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that that I'm gonna buy into this Kickstarter and then have a great time and enjoy the game, which I'm totally expecting. And then the next round, I'm gonna like, oh no, I want that faction too. Next time I have like 1 million factions, just like I already have 1 million War Machine factions. I mean, that's my problem. I mean,
that's the mini Wargamer curse, right?
Yes,
like
it is.
We're never free.
Yeah.
Once we start, we never stop. My first miniature I ever got, I was 10. And I was playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I got myself a little old, I think it was an old Ralpartha mini to be my character. And then as soon as I discovered like miniatures were a thing, like I was like, oh, I want to get this, I want to get this.
Yeah.
And I will never catch up. I will never have all my minis painted, and there'll never be a day where I'm like, I'm done. Like finally got them all. Like once you start, this is what you do.
Yeah, and I work in a game store, and my expertise in the game store is the miniature section, so I'm constantly looking at all of this temptation every single day that I work, and every day that I think about
sounds really hard.
It is really hard. It is really hard, especially when so many of us, and there are people out there that are GW fanboys or Infinity fanboys and things like that. I've always been a Privateer Press fanboy. War Machine was actually the first miniatures game that I ever got into, and I got into the game at a time when I wanted to play something competitive. But I didn't want to pay to play competitive Magic. I didn't want to keep up on it. And so I checked out this miniatures game, not knowing the miniatures games were just as expensive and time-consuming. But I've loved every minute of it, and I've been a part of the Portland Metro War Machine community basically the entire time that it's been here. So it's been really great, and I'm looking forward to checking out Warcaster more. I have some Monpok stuff. I've been really enjoying Riot Quest, and I've been getting everything as it's been coming out. So I'm looking forward to seeing more wacky stuff with the next rotation with the Winter Wasteland. And
Riot Quest. Well, we just did a new solicitation just went live where we showed the boss fight expansion.
Yeah,
with the Malvin and Mayhem Jack.
Yeah, that Jack looks so cool. And then also the new Pharaoh guy being a warlock.
Lord Azazello.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm really excited because I've been lead on Riot Quest the whole way through, but about midway through the convergence of Cirrus CID is when they moved me. So when we're in development, we all work on each other's games, right? Everybody's working together. But there's a lead on each game, and the lead is the one who makes the concept pitches for new models, the person who says, okay, we're going to do this, this, I think this would be a cool story, let's do this. Matt is final approval on everything, and then the lead is the one who writes the rules from scratch, like blank piece of paper. So Oz is lead on Monpok, Souls is lead on Warcaster, and I'm lead on Riot Quest and now War Machine.
Okay.
So I got to move over midway through the Convergence CID, which means I got to Like Lord Azazello is one of the first warlocks I got to write from scratch.
Of course it was. Yeah.
Well, the first two warlocks I wrote from scratch were Helga II and Lord Azazello. I'm not biased.
I'm not shocked at all. I was going to say, how long did it take for you to develop Helga on Wheels when you got the Riot Quest project? How long did it take before that was
day one?
No, it wasn't day one. She actually came a little bit later because there was the other stuff I pitched. I think I pitched her the same time I pitched the 4 Horsey Mans because we'd already started doing, like, we're like, okay, let's do Weird Windle, let's do Flugwug, and we were getting, and then, like, you know, Matt and I were talking. I was like, okay, it's time to get really weird. Let's really give Riot Quest its own unique, like, spin, because there's a separate timeline from War Machine. Let's really get out there. And so I was like, started talking about Helga on Wheels, and he loved it. And then finally went into 4 Horsey Mans, and that's when we started getting into the real, like, Saturday morning cartoon apocalypse feel of what Riot Quest sort of became.
Yeah. And I have my Helga on Wheels assembled but not attached to the base, and I haven't decided if I'm going to have her modeled to kind of doing a power slide or doing a wheelie. I can't decide which way.
That's a hard choice.
It is.
That is a hard choice. Wheelie would probably be sweet.
Since we're on Riot Quest, I'm going to have 2 things to throw out at you. One, you mentioned the Saturday morning cartoon. Can we expect to see a PP Saturday morning cartoon? Yeah.
I wish. I would love, like,
get some artists in there.
I can't say
a comic strip.
I can't say it'll happen. Yeah, the comic strip that the fans did recently was awesome, and I would love during like a keynote for all of a sudden the screen to go grainy, and it's like an 80s style cartoon intro with like tracking being bad and everything, and then like the cartoon just kicks on and it's, you know, talking about whatever's coming next. I would love for that. We've got a lot going on right now, and I don't know that there's going to be time for something like that.
Yeah, we can. And then the second follow-up is I'm going to pitch to you a Croakcaster. Maybe like a croak and a half shell or something like that, you know? Ironback spitter shell that he crawls out of or something. I don't know. Just saying.
I feel like if I ever did a Croakcaster, I would want to get super duper duper weird with it. I would want to, this is off the top of my head, literally right now, because I haven't thought about a Croakcaster because I've got these other casters, but I would want to do a caster that has all its babies in its back, and the babies are actually giving it the arcane power. Okay. And like, so you have like a hunchback croak with a bunch of little croaks coming out of the back of it, and like they're one big happy family. And but make it cute and not disgusting, but also kind of disgusting at the same time.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, if that becomes a reality later, know that it happened just now.
Just
it's time
live right now.
We're gonna claim credit on that one forever then.
Oh, I love it. My son would be very happy. He likes all the croaks.
Yeah, and I mean I love croaks too. One of the fun things about pitching all the Riot Quest models though is, you know, obviously we all have our favorite factions, even devs, but you have to really spread the love and make sure that everyone's being taken care of, and you have to put your mind into not just the game design aspect of what does this faction need, what would be good for this faction, but as a player, what will be fun for me to play and what is interesting. And every Riot Quest model, not just in the game Riot Quest, but in War Machine, I'm always trying to think that, like, okay, Chuck Dogwood. Okay, so what can I do with him? He's got the wool puppet. He's obviously crazy. Well, you know, let's give him veteran leader constructs. That's something that like circle players are really going to enjoy. Let's give him puppet master. That's something they're really going to enjoy. Is it an auto include in every list? No, he's going to go with Kruger too, and he's going to go with, you know, some wolves, and it's going to be really strong. And that's trying to find things that aren't. He's going to hang out with Balder, right? Is make models that are intriguing, they're fun to play with, but they're not, I absolutely must have it for my faction. Like, because then you start getting into power creep, and you don't want anything like that.
Yeah, agreed. I think it looks like the other thing that we had on here is I guess there was some mention of a skin collector from the Discord discussion about, was it Skin and Bones? Was it Nail? What was going on with that?
Oh, we were, our little Portland Northwest Discord was kind of riffing off like if there was a Riot Quest skin collector.
Okay.
Oh. You know, I would say that's too grisly for Riot Quest, but I just came up with the croak with the babies coming out of its back. So
yeah, right. Yeah.
Maybe not.
Oh my goodness.
The Grimkin models have been interesting because the Grimkin models we've seen so far, Weird Wendell and 4 Horsey Mans, are definitely less horrific and more whimsical. But I could see us doing something a little darker one day.
Yeah. I don't know if you can ever say that a Nayslayer or the 4 Horsey Mans are not are more whimsical. They are a little bit more whimsical, but at the end of the day, it's still the head of a real horse.
Yeah.
It is still the and a goat. Like Morvana's goats in there.
My poor girl.
See, that was the fun game of like trying to look and see. Oh, that one's from that person, or there's Striker's horse, or something like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That one of the things I really enjoy doing is peppering throughout the gear cards, the heroes, and the rules and everything. People can start to piece together the Riot Quest timeline story of who made it, who didn't, and what's going on. And then there's even character connections. Like we had Leadfoot and Treads inside the pig tank. Well, where did they get it? Well, then we introduced General Brugg, who is the pig they stole the tank from, but he's not a real general. He just stole a Signar captain's outfit and calls himself general, and all the other pigs listen to him. And so you're kind of creating this little culture of pigs that are just like making stuff up and then fighting about it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of little storylines like that, but there's also, like, in the solicitation for Leadfoot and Treads, it said they named the tank Mad Track after their fallen leader. So, like, that lets you know what happened to Madrak inside the Riot Quest timeline.
Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't pick up
Little things like that.
That's
Well,
nice.
Shard of Rathrock, too, is running around, so maybe Chromac made it, maybe he didn't.
Maybe not.
We'll see, yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to. I can't wait for the Wastelander model to come out because that guy's super cool, and I love that model. I want to see what his rules look like and everything.
He does some really crazy stuff. He does. I mean, I'll give you a little spoiler of one of the things he does in War Machine. So he has a. Are you familiar with the rule Whiplash?
Yes.
That Ares has. So if someone targets her with a spell. And they miss, they target themselves instead. And if it's an AoE, the AoE is centered on them.
Yeah.
So he has a rule called Deflect, which is the same rule but for ranged attacks. So if you shoot him and you miss, you shoot yourself instead. He bounces the bullet back at you.
Yep. Classic Samurai.
He has a very high defense, and he has an even higher defense against ranged attacks. And then he has a new rule for now. This isn't the final name. We'll just call it Take a Bullet. And what it is effectively Shield Guard, but Shield Guard says when you hit a model, you hit this model instead. Take a Bullet says when you target a model, you can make them target you instead.
Okay.
So what he does is they shoot one of his buddies, and then Wastelander goes, no, you shoot me. They make their roll, and if they miss the Wastelander, they shoot themselves instead.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, so he's jumping in front of bullets for people and then bouncing them back at people.
That sounds awesome.
It's pretty fun.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we could say since we're talking about pig vehicles and stuff, jump back to Warcaster for a second. We're going to see any ships or vehicles anytime in the future, maybe?
Maybe we'll see. Ships might be hard because the ships that we've shown so far are huge.
Yeah.
Right? They're like more than the size of the table you're playing on.
What's the problem?
Could there be smaller ships? Yeah, because the thing is, they don't really have drop ships as much as normal because getting troops from the orbital ships down to the planet is all done through the void gates.
That's right.
So there won't be as much like, we have to have a troop transport in the air that's got 100 soldiers on it because we'll just teleport them in.
Yeah.
But could there be vehicles that get landed or teleported in that do other things?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Where are the jet bikes? Where are the walkers that are like a half warjack or something?
Oh no.
We will see. We will see.
I guess going back to Warcaster a little bit and talking about Kickstarter some. So we see these 3 initial factions in the initial Kickstarter, and I think in some of the information about Kickstarter, talking about the future and everything like that, about there being another Kickstarter wave basically like 4 or 5 months down the line. Is that kind of the way that you guys are going to be pushing the waves of different releases, and are we going to see new factions with each of those waves? Do you know, or can you say?
I would say for the time being, like you can expect to see like each major new wave come out through Kickstarter, and then it won't be back available later. Like you'll have to go to your local store to pick it up, right, and to continue carrying it. And I would say definitely expect any new factions that might get released to be done the same way. As for when or if any might be coming, I can't say that just yet.
Okay, no, that's fine. I figured. There's just, there's talk of 1,000 different worlds. We see 3 different factions, and I know some people are chomping at the bits for these ones, and some people are still holding their reservations for maybe some other cool stuff that's coming down the line, like some space gators or something.
Or an insect.
Yeah, I know, right?
Some giant.
I see a lot of people online talking about where are the aliens. They're asking where when we're going to first look, and so we'll see.
I mean, we humans do a pretty good job of spreading out and setting up tents, but 1,000 worlds is still a lot.
It is still a lot. You're right.
Yeah. So with this Kickstarter, are we gonna be able to see Warcaster in action at Lock and Load, or is there going to be events?
I would love to see that happen. I think the delivery date listed right now is July 2020.
Okay.
And so with that being the case, if it does come out earlier, great. If it comes out after, that would be after Lock and Load. Now, is there a chance that we will just bring miniatures for people to play with and have tables set up? That is very much a possibility. Okay. But I know that logistically, John and the convention team are sorting through a lot of that. So I can't say with certainty right now, but I would definitely like to see it.
Okay.
That'd be cool.
There was one other thing that I was looking over the playtest rules and things like that, and noticed that all of the cipher cards are the same for each of the 3 different factions. Are there any plans for any faction-specific ciphers, or was that something that you guys wanted to avoid in the development?
I would say that faction-specific ciphers would definitely be an excellent piece of design space to be able to utilize in the future.
Okay.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Right on.
And then I'm going to touch upon some of the alt sculpts mentioned in the Kickstarter. Now, are these alt sculpts only available through the Kickstarter? Any plans on them being able to be purchasable, or kind of?
I honestly don't know the answer to that one. Okay. I imagine that they would be. If nothing else, they might be like con exclusives, like the con exclusive Weaver we're doing at Adepticon.
Yeah.
But as development. Stuff like an alternate sculpt, we're often separated from the production decisions and then the business decisions. Like, we're just more on the making the game and the rules and pitching the concepts of what will become a model. But cool stuff like that, we're not always involved in, and I just don't know.
Okay, so if you want those alt sculpts, get in the Kickstarter.
I'd recommend it. I mean, you may have a chance later. I don't want people to think like, oh, this is my only shot. But
I mean, you are a miniatures company after all. You like making and selling miniatures, so.
That is yes.
Probably start seeing them con exclusives. I wouldn't be surprised if that was moving forward.
So I got a question for you just about what you're playing currently. Are most of your games right now Warcaster? Are you 50-50 or are you 60-40, or where are you spending most of your time right now personally?
Are we talking for work or personally?
Ooh, good question. How about you personally?
Yeah,
what are you playing?
You personally, what are you playing on an evening after you get done of a long, hard day of testing at work?
So
I guess
a belief. I'll just call it a belief. Okay. In my mind, if you are doing anything in a creative position, you need to absorb as much of that medium as you possibly can. So if you're an author, you should read as many books as you can. If you're a filmmaker, you should watch as many movies as you can. If you make music, you should listen to as much music as you can, and not just the kind that you do. Like, if you make horror movies, you don't just have to watch horror movies. You should watch everything from 60s westerns to modern day rom-coms. Gather as much as you can from your entire genre, not to plagiarize, but to get the full experience and see what else is out there and understand trends and maybe see potential that you didn't see before. So I subscribe to that when it comes to game design. So I play everything I can get my hands on. I play tons of board games, card games, video games, RPGs, war games, you name it. I've got my stuff that's always kind of in my regular rotation, but I will try out anything. And you never know where you're going to find inspiration. You know, you might play a kid's game with somebody for the first time and all of a sudden be like, whoa, they're doing something really cool here mechanically, and kind of learn from it. So what I play in my personal time is I have a game club I go to downtown Seattle that it's basically a bunch of us that are sort of in the industry, and it's like a little private spot we go, and we just play all kinds of stuff. And then I will usually meet up with people once outside of there a week, and then I've got an RPG I run every Sunday as well.
Nice.
And then I have buddies that have board game nights. So my actual honest answer is just a little bit of everything.
Yeah. I think we all do a lot of that here, too.
Yeah. My personal motto is to play all the games. And I get some flack for that sometimes, but I'm with you.
But it's true, right? And and there's things that I know are good, but I never like. So recently, my girlfriend and I started playing Arkham Horror, the LCG, right? And we had played Lord of the Rings and really enjoyed it, and we knew Arkham Horror was good. We just had never picked it up and played it because we were working through. What was the last ones we were doing? We were doing Castle Ravenloft, the board game, just because we hadn't finished it.
Very cool.
And so we finished that one. We're like, hey, we were kind of on a little bit of a horror kick, and we're like, you know what? It's time for Arkham Horror. And so play Arkham Horror, and then she, we can play Riot Quest, we can play whatever we want, and I don't know, it's a weird potpourri, but I think it works out really well.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I want to thank you for taking your time with us today, and I know you have more to do, but I wanted to just ask for any closing thoughts from either one of my guests, or you or my host here.
What's on your painting table?
I was going to end with that question, but no, I want to know that too. But yeah,
what's on my painting table right now is I've got 3 different projects. I am working on speed painting some Monster Apocalypse. I've been trying to work on flesh-colored Cthulhu, and I want to make them look as disgusting as possible.
I've heard about this, and I've seen a couple of your Twitter posts about it.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out something I can speed paint, just because my time right now is a little limited, and I want something I can do, but it'll still look good on the table.
Yeah.
And then my idea is once I get to the Cthulhu up, I want to get Globicus, the new toxic waste monster, and I want to paint him flesh. And I figure that would be one of the most horrific things I've ever done.
Oh man, like Clayface, but worse.
Yeah, there's 2 of them.
Yeah.
Oh jeez.
Maybe even get some little some brown texture to look like hair, and just have clumps of hair kind of coming out of him, kind of thing. I like to horrify my opponents sometimes.
Win on intimidation.
I don't have any personal Warcaster models yet, so I'm working on keeping it with all my Riot Quest.
Yeah.
And then a lot of my table right now is I run a homebrew D&D game every Sunday that I've been running for it's over 20 years now. We've had different groups. So I've had people who have been in it for like 15 years at this point.
Wow.
And so I spend a lot of time getting miniatures from our company, from other companies, from wherever I can find that match what I'm looking for, because you never know where you're going to find the right thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And we definitely play where we don't use miniatures. We're not playing it like a board game. We do a lot of just use your imagination. But there's a lot of situations that'll come up where it's like there's enough going on that we need to put the miniatures down on the table so people will have an idea of, okay, I'm here in relation to this guy, kind of thing. And when we do that, we don't like to do just a blank piece of paper with some lines on it and go, okay, you're here and here. Like we go all out. So recently, I'm running a naval-based campaign, and I went and got that gigantic WizKids boat, the full-size one.
Oh yeah.
And that's the boat that they've commandeered, and they're running around. And I was like, man, I wonder how many times I'm actually going to use this boat. And it turns out a whole bunch. Yeah. But it's, we like to have the table look as close as it can to what's actually happening as possible.
That's cool.
That's pretty awesome. Is that where you got the idea for Hull Grinder?
I will. Well, Hull Grinder came from 2 parts.
Okay.
1, yes, and 2, I think when Hull Grinder was happening was shortly after, or when the first concepts of Hull Grinder were happening was shortly after the Pirate CID had just ended. So pirates were on my mind in the first place.
Yeah.
Right on.
Dan, did you have anything?
Just mainly thank you for coming on. I mean, I would love to dive into Trolls Pharaoh mashup, but that could take us a lot more than a few minutes. So
we can always do this again later, right? Yeah. This doesn't have to be the only podcast I'm ever on.
Right. We would love that. For now, we just want to wish you success. We're excited about all the games that you guys are putting out there, and like I said, we're total fanboys. We play them all. And we're really looking forward. I know I'm personally looking forward to Warcaster big time. But yeah.
Yeah, and for everybody listening, if you want to check it out, just go to warcaster.com If it's after the Kickstarter is over, you'll find all the info you need there. And if the Kickstarter is still happening by the time you listen to this, it'll have a link to the Kickstarter. And if any of the crazy space stuff we said sounded cool, you can go find out more there.
It's gonna be awesome. All right. Well, thanks for listening to our show, and find us at spellstormminiatures.com and find Will at privateerpress.com.
I'm going to say hello, and then I'm going to say that I'm excited to do this, and I'm going to say that I had a 2-hour battle report just before this, and then had to rush to go eat, and I've never eaten a hamburger that fast before I got on this phone call.
Yeah,
nice.
I was watching you on the stream before Dan came and picked me up.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get started then.